even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
Yes, so I actually had an experience when I was going to Mount Pleasant High School. I had a math professor that was very racist. Since I come from the Latino background, he would pick on me, choose, and say that I would end up in jail or either not going to college and doing things like that because of the demographics and the area where I came from. It kind of motivated me, it encouraged me to prove him wrong and to keep moving forward.
I mean, right now I feel like they're pretty fair. I can only speak from my perspective, and I of course am Caucasian, but I mean, I just in regards just as a college student, I've seen more minority scholarships for people coming from college for the first time and all these different things. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities out there for minorities. I feel as of now, and I could be ignorant, but I feel like there are a lot of opportunities. I don't really, I don't really see if there's maybe like a lot of disadvantages for minority students. Like, maybe just income wise. Everybody has income issues every so often, but I think it would be good overall. I think it's a good quality education, and I feel like it would be a good opportunity for everybody across the board.
I think by teaching ethnic background at a younger age, so maybe like African American history, Asian American history, Latino history, I think if we were to teach that at a younger age, say maybe high school or middle school, like start introducing it, I think the ignorance of what race really is, or if race is even a thing, is even would I think that later on in college and stuff, like I don't think that teachers could discriminate. So if we were to start teaching about our history of all ethnic backgrounds at a younger age, I think we could really benefit from that.
He states that our education is very fair. I wouldn't change nothing. Based on other countries that I've been to, which include Singapore, Cambodia, and France, I believe that our education is fair. I don't see any current inequality.
I still think race, in conjunction with class and gender, is still a problem in terms of access to public education. I think we need to have more consistent affirmative action activity, not just in terms of providing access to higher education to all residents of the United States, but also affirmative action in terms of, well, from primary school on. That is, we need to take greater care in terms of giving access to the best kind of education to all people. I think we're still failing. I think some schools, some students have been left behind. And while I was no fan of the Bush administration, I do believe that the slogan, "Nobody should be left behind," and I think we are leaving people behind. And I think we will continue to leave people behind.
We still have disparities in terms of ethnicities and race in higher education, as many schools are still trying to adjust or compensate for in education by providing programs and assistance to the poor and the underrepresented groups. We have the federal government, which has tried through providing funding to higher education in terms of historically black colleges, as well as other institutions and programs. but that doesn't really mean you're getting more people in the university setting because of the programs, especially in the ones that are not historically black colleges, because there are no historically Latino colleges in the United States or Asian, so everybody else is kind of left out except for the blacks, and that, for good reason that they've been helped, right? Because for the longest time they were the oppressed, they were the segregated, they were the ones that were being discriminated against. And in recent years, everybody wants to use GPA, SATs, and scores and stuff like that, so that it removes the subjectivity from the process. But the problem is there's subjectivity built into the SAT tests as a standardized test, because Latinos aren't going to read the Atlantic Monthly or the Harper or the New York Times and stuff like that, and therefore their background to answer the questions that are posed isn't going to be there. And while English curriculum, for instance, does focus in on Hamlet, Romeo, Juliet, and things of that nature, which you would think would help with the English part, it doesn't. Because those students that are normally going to go to college and take the SAT that are like Latino or other ethnicities are usually not in those classes that cover that material, and so their background for answering those questions is poor.
So let's talk about after-school programs generally. They're supposed to be educational programs, right? And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help kids who don't get fed at home get fed so they do better in school. Guess what? There's no demonstrable evidence they're actually doing that. There's no demonstrable evidence they're actually helping results, they're helping kids do better in school, which is what, when we took your money from you to say, look, we're going to go spend on an after-school program, the way we justified it was, these programs are going to help these kids do better in school and get better jobs. And we can't prove that that's happening.
I think it's important for the person who is in charge of our financial aid programs to understand what it's like for students and their families who are struggling to pay for college. Mrs. DeVos, have you ever taken out a student loan from the federal government to help pay for college?
I have not.
Have any of your children had to borrow money in order to go to college?
They have been fortunate not to.
Have you had any personal experience with the Pell Grant?
Not personal experience, but certainly friends and students with whom I've worked.
So you have no personal experience with college financial aid or management of higher education?
But I'm really interested in this.
Okay,
should everybody be on a level playing field? So public charter or private K-12 schools, if they receive taxpayer funding, they should meet the same accountability standards.
Yes, they should be very transparent with the information, and parents should have that information first and foremost.
And if confirmed, will you insist upon that equal accountability in any K-12 school or educational program that receives federal funding, whether public charter, or private?
I support accountability.
Equal accountability for all schools that receive federal funding.
I support accountability.
Okay, is that a yes or no?
I support accountability.
Do you not want to answer my question?
I support accountability.
Okay, let me.
If they want to take money that's public money and give it to private institutions that are for-profit or not for-profit, you're taking away money that belongs to the people. If somebody wants to attend a private school, whether it's charter or not, they should pay for it out of their own pockets. Because you're telling society by you going to a private institution that you think it's better, and if you think it's better, that means you should have some investment in that, and to write a check from the government to those institutions, for me, it's an entitlement for the rich, and you're taking away entitlement from the poor. Because that's who's going to end up going to the charter schools for many reasons. But the main one is just simply transportation. A wealthy individual can get their children to a destination using many resources like Uber or themselves or hiring somebody, or that they may even work near that location and can drop them off. The individuals that don't have the money, that are less well off, will struggle with transportation and therefore have to send their children to a school that's closest, which is going to usually be a public school.
So this is from Dr. Ward, who is a psychology professor here at De Anza College. She states that Betsy DeVos will have a negative effect towards the public school education. She needs to support the public school system that currently exists. She has to meet every student's requirement. The rich can buy their own education. Public school is the equalizer.
In theory, I don't have any problems with, in theory, I could see the point of charter schools. And I think they have worked out well for certain groups across racial and ethnic lines, across gender lines. But I fear that, generally speaking, charter schools that are privately funded lack transparency. And students and children can find them to be just as inadequate as the local restaurant across the street. That is, it may be there, it might provide good food, but the next week it might be gone. And so I think any kind of charter school system has to provide transparency. It has to provide a certain amount of stability. And otherwise, if it can't do that, then I'm in favor of putting as much funding and as much people power into public education.
I feel like this would have a huge impact because in California, especially, the minorities are the majority here. So, I mean, depending on the level of funding, I think it might be good because compared to public education, private education is going to be a lot more, I guess they're probably going to cut less corners. They're going to be a lot more efficient and good at what they do compared to public education being a government institution, which government institutions tend to be pretty notorious for, you know, maybe not being the most efficient type of businesses. And I mean, I don't know, it depends on the income of the families and I guess the availability of funding and how affordable it is. I mean, I guess there's like a lot of questions there.
Well, I don't necessarily think charter schools are bad. I think that they could be a really good idea if done right. However, I do think that they are less accessible. Charter schools are less accessible than public schools. And the fact that she wants to pull money from our public schools, I mean, we can't get rid of the public school system, so taking money away from it is only going to hurt the children that are going to public school. Yeah, I don't think that they're a bad thing. I just think the accessibility of it, since most kids that are in a poor demographic or are in inner cities will most likely go to a public school. I think taking money away from it will only hurt them and not benefit their education.